welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Fleet Commander Nimitz. This is from DVG, Danvers and Games. This originally came out in like 2015, but this is the new, I'd say new, this came out like the end of 2020, so this is like a year old, but there's a new printing, a new version of it in which I believe they it's a second edition. They altered some of the rules that were a bit wonky and kind of fixed it. There was apparently a problem with it. I don't know what that was. Never played the original, but apparently this one works. I'm very excited for it because it was a game that I had my eye on for a long time. This is a solitaire, big, grand strategic Pacific War game, which I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I've liked the Field Commander series, and I'm like, this is very cool, but they were like, yeah, some of the games are a bit kind of weird in the way that you take losses and some of the stuff that happens. Apparently that's been revised, and it works well. So, very interested to see how this goes. So, this comes in a massive box. This is a Field Commander Napoleon-sized box, and it is extremely heavy, full of a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's in that same kind of a vein that you would get in Napoleon, I believe. But it's less campaign-based, I think. You have a big board in this one. So, we do have just a piece of cardboard for packaging, insert for shipping. Alright, so we've got our rules book with Chester Nimitz on the front. Looks like we've got about 23 odd pages of rules, but I mean, there's so many diagrams and examples. It's kind of one of the reasons I enjoy these games is very easy to actually pick up and learn, which I appreciate. Yeah, like 22 pages of rules at best. So, then we have the main. There's a number of boards. Let's see. That's not that. That's not that. Okay, we're going to worry about that. Alright. This is the major board that we're going to play the game on. If I could fold it out properly. Alright. This is brand new, and this is gloss. It's very glossy if you look at it. So this is the main board on which you're going to play. So you've got Japanese home islands, Australia, west coast of the United States, and obviously you've got these different areas that are divided up, and you've got these small kind of, it's the islands that you're going to be fighting the island war over. Let's see, we have our Japanese orders, so what the Japanese are going to do, again, that reminds me of the Napoleon. You just roll the die, and this is what they're going to do, kind of a thing, when it comes to this particular battle or fleet that you're going to do. Resupply table, sequence of play right in the middle. Should be interesting to play around with. We do also have here a battle board, specifically for doing island combat, I would presume. So this is kind of a generic island that has some airfields on it and has these different naval spaces that are divided up as well. So I presume you're going to, when it comes to invading the Gilbert Islands, you're going to take your big stacks, stick them on here and play out the battle. I would presume. So then we've got a number of setups for the campaigns that you play through. Obviously all on the same map. So we've got setup for 1945, 1944, 1943, and 1942. This is quite thin. It's just a piece of paper. So that's not my favorite thing in the whole world. But I understand it's just set up, but if that was included in the rules, I'd be less inclined to lose them, I guess. So here it's going to have all of your different naval order of battle and dispersion that you're going to have out on the board, infantry units, land-based aircraft, and carrier air groups as well. Gives you your objectives, and then how well you do in the campaign is listed there as well. X amount of victory points, you did great. Poor, you did, you get replaced. You're fired. But yeah, that's all of those on there. There's a whole bunch of those. So you can play from 1942 onwards, or you can just do a little bit of late game stuff if you're in it for short term. Year of the campaign, objectives held at each turn, final evaluation. So I guess oh, that's interesting. I wonder if you just for your first game, you write it in here, and then for each subsequent, if this is like a journal of all the different campaigns that you play through this. So that's pretty interesting. I appreciate that. So then we've got the kind of insane amount of cardboard that's in here. And I believe that that's everything else that's in this box. This box is now empty. Oh, just kidding, there is one glorious 10-sided dice. But there's just this amount of cardboard. This is just all huge, really thick, pre-rounded counters. So we will go through some of these. Then that's a little bit unfortunate. Some of these are not well... No, a lot of them are. So, for example, let's get out... So here's some US troops and some US ships. So let's get out the Enterprise, for example. Great, that's the Enterprise. Cool, makes sense. We all know what we're getting ourselves into on that. This is the counter, and they are dual-sided with a damaged side on them, which is nice. But, so on this one, the, like, this little Japanese rising sun icon is really, really printed like this infantryman. It's totally missed. There's not even, like, a hint of it on there. So that's unfortunate. In a couple of these aircraft, it's the same. Some of these units up here have, like, the world's tiniest amount on it, so that's a shame. But then, like, on this sheet, it's totally fine. Now, the backgrounds are the same. This is, like, the most nitpicky thing in the whole world, but I know some of you are going to bring it up, and we acknowledge that it is there, but that is just decoration and has no game impact, which is fine. I've played a lot of games where, like, they cut off the numbers, and they're kind of close to doing it here, but they do not. All the numbers seem to be printed on there, which is good. I was playing a game, and it was, like, horribly misdone, and, like numbers on the counters were cut off, and it was like, that's now unplayable unless I write that down on a Sharpie, which is unacceptable. But everything else here looks pretty good. There's a ton of units. I mean, this is just like, you're going to have massive stacks of counters going at it. Big, colossal fleet battles, which I hope is very enjoyable and rewarding to have these titanic struggles, and you kind of get some of that feel of like, hey man, we're going to send in 6 aircraft carriers, and like, let's go. And like, that's really intense. I hope we get some of that from this. So we do have some Australian units as well. Obviously, those will probably be based in Australia. More Japanese units. Just a ton of aircraft carriers. And then we've got a bunch more aircraft carriers. For 24. I mean, there's just so many of these. A whole bunch more units. So in here we have a couple markers. Presumably those are port control markers. Red for Japanese, blue for US. These are going to be your kind of attack orders. You shuffle those up, and you're going to draw those, or it might be rolled. Yeah, you draw those, and like that's the kind of thing that they're going to do in the tactical combat. Usually that's the kind of thing. And then for the US, you get to choose which ones are those. Oh, I've got a good admiral. We're gonna do this one and this one. And you kind of assign them, and they've got a little special ability that you can execute. That's going to give you a bonus in that tactical combat. Usually, theirs are kind of randomly drawn and assigned based on a hierarchy, which is in the rules. A couple moved markers, battle turns and locations. There's presumably some kind of merchant fleet supply points. The little resupply marker is the same colour, so I would imagine that's the case. Some airfield markers. Maybe you build and repair airfields, and that's their capacity. Not quite sure on that. But there's just a disgusting amount of cardboard in here. Time to get the bag of bags out, which they don't include in this. But I have a ton of baggies. We're going to punch all this stuff. This is a game that I will be playing. I'm very excited to as well, because I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Kind of stayed away from it because of what was said, but they've redone it, so I'm hoping that this works and works well, and we can get you an assessment of how this game is. But appreciate you guys very much for tuning in. This is Fleet Commander Nimitz 2nd edition from DVG, and I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.